YouTube, ladies and gentlemen, everybody from the community, welcome to the final cast of the day. This is a big boy matchup. It is like really every other matchup of the day. All of them have been big boys. All of them have been pretty nuts. Majority of them were really close. And boy, oh boy, if there is one thing I know about these two alliances is they are about to give it hell to win this event. This is not gonna be a simple matchup. This is not two small alliances. These are not folks who are not well versed in Arc of Osiris, and these are not folks who haven't beaten big players before. Unfortunately, just like every other match really, with the exception of a few, when it comes to betting, it is very one-sided. 1093 looks to be the clear favorite of the community with massive support when it comes to the betting aspect. And as you guys know, 1NB8 are no joke either. These odds make it very juicy to get a small bet on the underdog. However, the fact of the matter still remains 1093 is one of the biggest kingdoms in the game, and the alliance 1093 includes some of the most well-versed players in the community, some of the most known players in the community, and these guys are present everywhere. You'll find the Misfit Lion King of 93 all across kingdoms in this game. You'll find and hear from Super Beta all the time, one of the leaders in the 1093 camp. A bunch of these similar faces we're going to see today, some of the biggest players out there in terms of Arc of Osiris with all the experience required. We're talking like folks like Shin Jen, like Ayla, I think she's in that lineup as well, and plenty more firepower. 1NB8 coming from a kingdom that is looking to take 3 spots out of the 8 alliances that are making it to the next stage. Can you comprehend the fact that one kingdom might hold on to 3 out of 8 spots in the next playoffs stage, to the point where if they keep going and making it, we might have quarterfinals that are 3 kingdoms, 108, 103, and someone else. This could be a thing. I think it would work out in the bracket. I haven't taken a look yet on how the bracket would end up looking like. A third alliance from that Kingdom 103. These guys are a massive community of some of the biggest, most savvy players in the game. Let's take a quick look at 1093 and what they bring into the table. 2.9 billion power. Kingdom 1093 is so well armed with such a great strategy as well as tactics that in their previous matchup against C9N, which was not an easy match at all, they showed up with less individuals than the C9N. They did not have their full lineup, and they were still able to pull a win. These are not folks to mess with, and 1NB8 are going to have to be on their A game. Small mistakes that we have seen in previous matches costing dearly to alliances cannot happen, especially when you go up against someone like 1093. Every building has to be reinforced. Every rally has to be on point. The timing on the Arc of Osiris, the defense of the obelisks, the defense of the buildings being rallied, the correct marches, the support marches, everything has to be tip top of the line, perfecto, or else you go bye-bye. That is right. We're looking at the folks of 1NB8 right here. They're not coming in with little power, guys. This is a third alliance from Kingdom 103, packing over 2 billion power. Raw firepower right there. Their only loss to their folks from the same kingdom, NB1 against 1NB8. They went at it, and they went at it hard. A lot of people thought, there was a little bit of odds in favor of the guys of 1NB8. Maybe there'll be a little bit of a situation there when the Oryx are more juicy than a win. These guys are the most competitive they can be. No Oryx in the world will get any of these teams to back off, including going up against a family alliance. And this is all, of course, out of being good sports and being competitive. There is no hate or fights or anything among them, just to make sure that it's very clear. They're one big kingdom, and this alliance, my God, the things that they can do. I'm really interested to see very early on who controls the game from the beginning. I believe that what we're about to see is a very, very close matchup where both these alliances are going to try to steal the steering wheel from the other alliance. And just like we've been seeing in some of these very close matches, we're going to see two alliances that at some point, one or the other will take a very solid lead as well as be in the driver's seat, and we will have the joy and opportunity to see the other one react and counter and make tactics and strategies on the fly. At least that's what I'm hoping we're about to see. We're about 2 minutes out of the match. If there are a couple of things to keep an eye on is, first and foremost, keep your eyes on those altars. Specifically, we're looking at altars not only that are being occupied and held by alliances, but take a look. You guys can do that even without us commentating. When you look at the map on the top right side of the screen, you'll be able to see the buildings blinking. Keep an eye on which altars blink at what time. You'll notice that these guys are at such a high level of gameplay that they time the rallies to perfection, to the point where they do not, once there is an altar that is being contested and hasn't been locked in the favor of either alliance, they will not allow the point per minute game to grow for the other team. What that means is when you have one altar waiting the 3 minutes of occupation and the other one ticking for points, the one that's ticking for points will be the one targeted, and vice versa when the one that finally recovers is there, and now you have another one that is potentially being occupied by the certain alliance. The one that's ticking for points will be the targeted one. Keep an eye on which altars are being targeted. Those buildings are the most important ones in the game. Those buildings are worth 600 points out of the 1180 points on the map. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the final cast of the day. We appreciate every single one of you who showed up to every single one of these casts, or at least to one of them, to support the Rise of Kingdoms community. This is a Rise of Kingdoms official Osiris League cast brought to you by the folks of Lilith Gaming as well as the sponsored content creators. If you guys enjoy this kind of stuff, make sure you're slapping a like on these casts and let Lilith know we want more. We want these casts to get better, bigger, stronger, more people, more matches all over. We want to get that done, but we need your help to let Lilith know this is what the community wants. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you guys very much for all the support you've been showing to us in the past weeks as we've been showing up here day and night, 5 casts every Sunday for the last 2 months. And we'll keep doing it for a few more weeks until we crown our first Osiris League champion. And with that being said, our match should be ready to go. Let's go scroll down and make sure everything is ready and set with 206 observers already in the map. I'm not going to delay this any further. Dragothian is on the other side of the line, biting his nails, ready to get into this match because we are expecting a big one right here. And so let's hand it over to that open field and see what we can get done in this match.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Gecko. I don't know how you figured out that I was biting my nails, but I'm going to tell you right now, you nailed it on the head. This is going to be an absolutely amazing match. We've got 1093, the Alliance of 1093 coming in with obviously one of the strongest alliances in the game. And then going up against, like you said, third alliance in this tournament that could possibly move to the next round of 8 and one NB8. Both alliances very solid in their own right. Both have the firepower to pull this kind of match off. They've got the T5. They've got the strategies. As you saw earlier in the day, NB1 and NB2 were able to take their wins right at the last minute on both of their opponents, and ended up moving on to the next round of 8 in the Osiris League playoffs here. And like you said, we also have a third one from their own kingdom, one NB8. And even though they're the third one, quote unquote here, they're not third class. These guys are world-class players in their own right. And then on the other side, with 1093 having some of the best players in the game, some of the best powerhouses that have been able to play this game, we're going to be seeing quite a matchup. I'm really interested to see some of the strategies. I've talked to a couple people on both sides of this map because I knew this was going to be our final match for today, and I was told we will not be disappointed in what we're going to be seeing here this evening.
Heck yeah, I cannot wait any longer. I'm looking at both sides, kind of seeing the familiar names, seeing some of these very predominant players in the not only the Osiris League, but also in general in Rise of Kingdoms. I do see that 1093 are fielding in 3-4 of their reserves in case of need, which seems to be the case right here. Thankfully, there are plenty of these reserves ready to go. The extra folks who signed up as backups are ready in here. 28 versus 30, though. Very, very dangerous situation for 1093 right now. 5 backup players plus 2 missing is really not how you want to get started. But we've seen in the previous match that that doesn't necessarily mean too much, especially if 1093 can field the rest of their needed members, which they just did in time.
Yep.
So with Olivia and J-Rock, Olivia coming from JWM and J-Rock, an XK58 member, a few of other folks from XK58, Turin, and I see a couple of others in here. Man, oh man, this is gonna be a matchup, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're looking at the rally counter here in just a second. I mean, 8. The magic number's 8, right? We're going to have some rallies going to obelisks on both sides. This has been the standard opening for quite a few of the top tier alliances in this game, in this tournament. And yeah, looking forward to seeing how they play this out. I know that a big method that a lot of these players tend to do is to send those rallies across the map towards obelisks and break them at the right time, or if they see they've got the advantage, whether it's because they've gotten to the obelisk sooner than the opponent, like JWM did earlier today, or if they break them by an altar, if it makes sense to do so, and maybe ninja capture that first occupation, or at least delay the opponent by capturing one of those 150 point per minute buildings. That's been a strategy that's been playing big dividends in each one of these matches over the past few weeks.
So if you take a look at the map, as we've explained in previous casts, the map is a mirrored map, meaning it's an identical map on both sides that crosses right about that center where the Osiris temple is. One thing that is important to point out is that the outposts are a bit skewed towards the top and towards the bottom when it comes to the obelisks. So a very useful method to catch those, which is, by the way, why those are caught much faster, is to piggyback off of the outpost to get one of your fast marches, especially someone like Belisarius, to ping off exiting a building, which gives him an extra speed on the map. And that's how you can see that both 1093 and 1NB8 picked up their bottom and top obelisks respectively very, very quickly. And these guys are literally, it's like they've been watching our casts. They've seen that a lot of these folks are struggling with the fast obelisk takes. They understood the importance, and they already knew this before us, the importance of catching these obelisks the fastest possible way. And they've indeed accomplished it to the point where even 1NB8 gave up on the one outpost, which was just taken, because they wanted to make sure they have the obelisk first. And truthfully, even if the rallies march all the way here, they won't have that much time to fight here before this gets locked in favor of 1NB8.
Yep, and again, they may have seen the last cast where, we had alliances that were very sluggish to start off quickly, get those obelisks captured, and it really hurt those alliances whenever the opponent that they were facing was able to recognize that, already had a rally going to it, and it took the obelisk, delayed that obelisk capture, delayed the teleports, delayed the points from that obelisk, and then just as important, delayed the porting of their cities coming forward, and then ultimately really set the back foot on that alliance. So I really am looking forward to seeing what these different layers of strategy are going to be. They're right now, just off of what I've seen so far with the different rallies, they broke in the places that they wanted to break. You've got quite a bit of 1093 on the top right shrine, the Shrine of War, but also being heavily swarmed by 1NB8 as well. And then same thing on the left side, tons of 1NBA on the map. I noticed whenever the match opened up that there was quite a volume of troops coming out, just raw troop armies coming out on the battlefield for the red team in 1NBA. And if we're looking at, the different places on the map that we're looking at, all I see are just swarms of red armies, which is going to be something that 1093 is going to have to deal with at some point. And if we're talking about trying to rally some of these structures, they're going to have to win the open field battle to boot. So they're going to have to definitely put some time and effort into getting rid of some of these armies before they push. And I'm interested to see when these alliances decide they want to go into the middle. Even though it's a little early, we've got 7 minutes until the arc spawns. It's never too early to be thinking about it.
For sure. One thing to point out is the second these buildings opened up, half of these buildings went red and half of the buildings went blue. The Shrine of Life up the top, once again, being the last building remaining. Interesting stuff. I feel like the folks playing Osiris League have at least watched one of our casts where we cussed the hell out of that bottom Shrine of Life for always being last, and so they decided to troll us and now leave the Shrine of Life up on the top. Here's the thing, right, Dragothian? One of the things that are really interesting that 1NBA did, and it's a presence of mind that I really dig, when they picked up that obelisk, the most important thing they did after it is retreat away from the obelisk. Why is that? There were rallies coming into the obelisk to fill it up. Now, if you leave even that one cav inside the obelisk, what ends up happening is there won't be enough space for a full march. There is no such thing as a full march going, okay, 200,000 troops. No, 199,999 go in and the last troop is going to go back. No, the full march stays out. So by pulling out that one troop fast cav, it actually made sure that one more march makes it into the obelisk, which is super critical. Can you imagine how one cav that was mistakenly left in the obelisk can cost a full march to go back home by mistake because the person thought, I'm in the rally going into the building?
Yeah, I mean, we've casted a few together where we've seen that happen. Somebody took the obelisk with their fast cav, and then they decided to be on a different screen doing something else. And we talked about that struggle as well, right? Operating not just 5 multiple armies on the field, but then also probably coordinating with some flags, looking around to see where rallies are coming from. I mean, this is a very intense event inside of Rise of Kingdoms. I mean, the Osiris League, especially at this level, is for all the marbles. There's no going back. If you win, you go forward. If you lose, you go home. So it's very smart to make sure that if you're that one sending that fast cav, you need to make sure you hop right back out of there, or else that pre-made rally that's made to arrive and be ready to go to defend right when it arrives at that obelisk is ready to go. And as we're looking in the middle here, already 1093 is making a major push forward and pushing back 1NB8. We're a little early. We're at 4.5 minutes, but that being said, again, like we said before, never too early to be thinking about it. And if you've got a solid defense on the being on the blue side with 1093, you're definitely going to be in really, really good shape with this kind of presence in the middle and a strong defense behind you.
So my first thought was like, why are these guys fighting in the center? They need these forces right now to start a little bit of building play. With 7 minutes, as you mentioned, there was plenty of time to get a rally done, potentially take a building out, and then go towards the center. But the folks at 1093 seem to be able to do it all. They are not only taking huge fights in the center. Shrine of Life at the bottom went into their favor. However, that desert altar on the top is being heavily swarmed by red marches that I'm not entirely sure why they're not doing much. I understand. I feel like they had a open field combat that ended, and Flacco, for example, didn't pay attention. Right now he does, that his marches were marching back. A swarm on this desert altar, and if I am 1NB8, I'm always willing to trade that Shrine of Life for an altar. But with that being said, so many buildings are blinking, Dragothian. What are we looking at here?
Well, I'm seeing 9 and now 8 rallies. I mean, we're going crazy. There's probably still fights going on in the middle. Rallies are going everywhere. Again, this is what we've been talking about pretty much all day. There's not going to be a dull moment in any of these matches, and there's just no physical way to cover all the activity. Looking at the screen, this YSG rally is looking like it's going to take down that sky altar. There's just not enough reinforcement. I think a lot of the folks that are supposed to be reinforcing that are more than likely helping in the middle or pushing forward on that obelisk. And this is where it gets tricky, right? They started to make a push. They took that Shrine of Life. It looks like they're probably going to hold that desert altar at the top on their side too. Pushing an obelisk isn't necessarily going to be the best thing for many to do when you're looking at also having a heavy presence like 1093 does in the middle, the way they do.
And so the thing that 1093 did super well before they even put all this presence in the center was to ensure they at least have that first occupation locked in their in an equal footing. Both teams picked up their first occupations respectively, but right now 1NB8, 4 altars in their favor, 2 of them ticking for points, 2 of them not ticking for points in favor of the folks of 1093. That is a very, very big problem for the folks of 1093. Those are the biggest, most important buildings. And with 46 minutes remaining in the match, Dragothian, if by any miracle, I'm saying miracle because the likelihood of that happening is just as likely as a miracle, that 1NB8 will hold 4 altars all match long, Arcs of Osiris mean nothing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the majority of the points, like you said. And, you can see on the screen here, I think 1093 are starting to realize that, hey, maybe we overcommitted just a little bit. We've got some overwhelming force here in the middle. Let's bring a few of these armies back, get these structures tightened up. We've got the Shrine of War we're staring at on the screen here that's taken some heavy damage with some heavy, attention coming from 1NB8. Those marches are going to get there eventually, but they take time. They just take time. Being reactionary in Osiris League is not exactly going to be a great strategy because you're going to have to deal with the physical time it takes to manually move these armies across the battlefield without a rally. And like you said, 4 altars being in favor of 1NB8, that is a huge win for the red team in this match. And unless 1093 can come up with a quick way, which they should be able to, a quick 1-minute rally is going to help you take some of this stuff back alongside of going ahead and reinforcing it with open field armies and swarming it and things like that. But that takes resources. That takes time. And with, 20 seconds left, 15 seconds left until this arc spawns, is that going to pull enough away? Now that 1NB8 was able to kind of pull some folks away from the middle to help address these structure issues, because Red's basically taken the map over at this point. All they got left is obelisks almost.
And the worst part for 1093 is the backstab for that arc is coming because of the huge dominance on the map by 1NB8. They're coming in with a backstab. The Geo picking up that arc, and as soon as he sees what's coming his way, he's going to go like, oh, FML. Because this is really, really not something you survive. And that is only if 1NB8 focus on the arc and not on this open field combat, which it seems like they are doing right now. Dragothian, one of the things you said is the most important thing I think we can learn from this arc. Reactionary plays are very, very difficult if you are making the first move. So 1093 made the first move. They said, we are going to overwhelm the center, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And 1NB8's reaction was, cool. In that case, we're taking the map. And now 1093 are going, well, we probably should have thought that one thorough. Let's go back. And now look, the arc is sitting there in the open. All the blue marches are walking away. There are 3 blue marches among these reds, but truthfully, much more red presence. The Geo trying to pick up this arc back, but there is much more red presence than blue right now. Turin finally realizing he was marching backwards, and so is the Geo. But as that happens, more and more red swarm. And a first move, showing your hand first, might not necessarily be the greatest idea, especially when you commit that much to a specific area of the map. 1093 showed their hand saying, we want the center more than anything else. And 1NB8 said, sure, but we're going to take the rest. And there is nothing you can do. And by the time you do something, we will already have a lead that the arc will be insignificant, as these guys are pushing with 1,200 point lead, and it's growing with every single minute.
Yeah, and just looking at this scrum in the middle, I have to talk about what I really like seeing on the screen here. So when you're in the middle, right, it's not necessarily having rally commanders. It's not about having proper coordination, filling a rally. That's what the sides are for. Okay, you've got rally commanders and rally leaders shouting out what they're rallying, with what they're rallying with. And then on the back end of that, I need support and reinforcement at X location. That's the only thing that should be being talked about in Discord or whatever program they're using to communicate. In the middle, it's a totally different, it's almost like two different games, because on this one, you've got open field frenzy. And when you've got something like what you're staring at right here, AoE is king. AoE is king. Not only damage, but buffs and debuffs. So what do we see here? Okay. I see lots and lots of YSG. I see lots and lots of Richards. I do see an Ethelfled or two in there. I see a Barca. I see a Joan. I see some Constantine action. I see a bunch of AoE everything that's going to benefit all of your alliance mates on the battlefield, and then also to the detriment of your opponent having some AoE debuffs, like from Ethelfled, like from Alex. We even see an Alex with some AoE debuff action too. Richard with their AoE March speed debuff. We've got, I mean, there's so much stuff going on from an AoE perspective. There's no way to control it. And I think 1093 is doing the right thing, inching it back all the way as best they can. Keep it in a scrum, make sure you grab it and stay inside of that, because it's going to be so difficult to click. And if you've got all those AoE buffs, debuffs, damage, everything going too, it's all going to work in your favor. If you've got the arc, you're inside of it, and that bubble of just death and destruction is also shielding your arc carrier as you walk back towards your respective outpost.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Indeed, that's... And listen, at this point, I'm looking at an arc that is sitting there, chilling. It's not even inside a scrum. It's not even inside anything. It's just sitting there, and the fights are happening all over it. The fights are definitely happening all over it, and while all this is happening, look at the points per minute game. 750 in favor of 1NB8, 100 points in favor of 1093. 1093, to an extent, got caught in a very weird situation. On the one hand, they overcommitted to the center. On the other hand, they realized they overcommitted, and then they undercommitted. And then they realized that, you know, maybe, maybe we should have stuck with that. And then they came back to the center. They did take an altar back from 1NB8, but my goodness gracious, these guys are rallying an obelisk for 1093s, and this rally by Oleg seems super successful so far. Plenty of people are reacting to this. Sir Abolish and Reaper coming in to secure this obelisk. But again, with rallies happening all over the place, 1093 are trying to create a little bit of chaos on the map, trying to put 1NB8 back on a back foot, kind of like do something to make them flinch for a moment. Buildings blinking everywhere. I'm not a big fan of these obelisk rallies at this point in time. I believe that Lion King of 93, for example, one of the strongest players in this game, can use that rally to get himself more points per minute and potentially get himself back into a better position. Because look at the points right now, Dragothian. That arc is absolutely insignificant. If 1NB8 take it, excellent. If 1093 take it, all they do is they're closing a gap, which 1NB8 are growing with every single second. But I'm glad to start seeing blue buildings on the map. This is the kind of stuff we want to see.
Exactly. And just like you said, blue buildings are going to be popping up here shortly. They just took back their Shrine of War. There's a Shrine of Life at the bottom. It looks like it's going to fall to 1093, which it just did. This Sky Altar is still sitting here uncontested on their own side, on the left side there. 1 minute until it captures. That's going to be interesting to see if they can take that back in the 1 minute before 1NB8 is able to capture it and start accruing points with that. That's going to be a big deal. Yeah, the point differential definitely went in favor of 1NB8 because they were able to take over the map the way they did before the initial arc engagement really began. And when they did that, they really put 1093 on the back foot for sure, and took all those buildings away from them while they were so heavily invested in the middle. And that definitely caused quite a bit of disruption with what 1093's plan was going to be, which was definitely to hold their own, keep their buildings, and then get that arc back with no trouble at all. Quick capture or quick grab and stash. So, I mean, there's going to be a couple different things that they can do to make sure that they try to get back into this match, because right now they're down by about 3,300 points, and 1NB8 is definitely showing up to this match, not afraid to go toe-to-toe with one of the biggest alliances in the game.
But that one of the biggest alliances in the game has finally gotten itself into 6th gear. I believe they're now cranking it. I mean, buildings, half of the map looks to be in favor of the folks in blue, 1093. Still, the point per minute lead is in favor of 1NB8 because a lot of these buildings are locking in favor of the folks of 1093. 1NB8 fighting for the Arc of Osiris, still pretty even matchup out there. But again, the point per minute gap that 1NB8 built up from the beginning is still capitalizing. It's still making profits. It's still a very, very juicy thing happening here. Although 1093 are now taking 3 altars. This Sky Altar about to drop in a second, and there it goes. And this will slowly put the folks of 1093 back in the driver's seat. This is what I was saying in the pregame. I believe that we're going to see these two guys fight for that wheel for every single moment. 36 minutes remaining in the match. Those of you saying GG in the chat, you guys are out of your minds. I believe we're going to see the score flipping towards the 1093 folks and back towards N1NB8 and back towards 1093 at least one more time before this match ends.
Oh my, yeah, this is way too early. I mean, you just saw the whole map almost trade places twice in the last 5 minutes. And, now that 1093 has been able to go ahead and push forward a little bit on the bottom side, although it looks like there was a very quick reaction by 1NB8 to go ahead and send a rally to both targets, both being led by YSG, which is definitely a very solid commander, especially that Desert Altar does not look like it's going to have very much life left in favor of 1093 losing that. Same thing with the Shrine of Life too. So it's about to even back up. Everybody's going to be equal from a structure standpoint, not necessarily locking in, but now 1093 has the advantage with 490 in a minute versus 360 a minute, just dropped down to 440 from 690. So this is the points per minute is going to be all over the place the entire match. And with 35 minutes left, this is definitely not over. I mean, I look to definitely see some serious rallies going out, and just as I say that, 11 rallies on the tab. 10 now just dropped to 10. And you know what? Let me check and see really quick while I'm on here. I would love to see one of these alliances just to really throw somebody off. Send some outpost rallies. Just send them and see what that does to the inside that's fighting for that arc. Because right now, 1NB8 is dragging that arc back, and 1093 is doing everything they can to catch up and drop that carrier. But there are so many red on the map, man. There's so much red on the map.
Yes, sir. There is way too much red on the map, and the center is being consumed with red. That Arc of Osiris is gone. It is marching, and it's marching quick. It looks like a Genghis Khan found itself with a little bit of health remaining. 41-second march. Still plenty of time for the folks in 1093 to try to catch up to it, but the surrounding red on these blue marches is not going to make things easy. This arc might drop another time, maybe, but I believe that the folks at 1NB8 starting very strong. They're about to pick this arc and deliver it, and with that, extend their lead to a point where the question is, what do you do now? So the buildings keep going back and forth, right? And so that means that's a good thing. It means that both alliances are consistently fighting and consistently pushing. But at some point, one of the two is going to have to be able to settle down. We still haven't let the dust settle. Once the dust starts settling and all these marches leave the arc center and go towards these different buildings, I see much more presence of the red team in here, which means much more reinforcements in their favor, which will make 1093's life much, much harder.
Yeah, and as we said before, looks like they're basically cleared for the most part. It may drop one more time. I mean, it's definitely inching its way closer and closer to that outpost. Looks like it may actually make it. I don't think they're actually targeting the carrier of that arc, which is 1 SIBO 8 with the mixed troop Hannibal coming in for the clutch grab on that arc, capturing it in favor of 1NB8. So that's done. If it's me, I'm pulling my guys back, refresh, regroup, make sure we're holding our own on our own buildings, which we're not. We are now. It looks like when I say we, 1093 here just grabbed their Shrine of War back. although their altar on the far left side there, the Sky Altar, is rally and one backup army attacking a just garrisoned Sky Altar for 1093, not having really any reinforcements there at the time, although I'm sure some are coming. They're just not quite there yet. So they need to lock everything up, reorganize, regroup, start sending out those rallies. And right now the rally timer has escalated 1, 2, 3, 4, up to 9 times now. So
My God.
this is going to be crazy. Rallies everywhere. That's what's really helping 1NB8 is the rallies. They're holding the rallies that are being sent from 1093, and they're positioning their on the field troops in favor of where they're going with their rallies, so that eventually they have what they need, where they need it, how they need it, and they're actually starting to take some of these buildings.
Yes, sir. And that Sky Altar finally getting a couple of extra reinforcements. This Edward rally is being a huge pain in the butt, decides to go up against the rally and the open field march rather than go for the building. And you know what? For the first time, I really like that play. Why? Because he's using a Hannibal, and I believe there is an Ethelfled back there too. And what he's doing is essentially debuffing the rally as well as the solo march back there. And that means that the Sky Altar was actually able to hold a bit longer that damage that was being dealt to it. And that gave it just enough time for more marches to make it in. So when I saw drops coming in, I thought he was going for the building, and I was almost about to bash him for not going in. But then I realized what march he was using, and I love the play. I love the fact that instead of going in, he went and weakened down the rally and the swarm, which made it do much less damage to the Sky Altar, which then lasted much longer. I love it. Very, very smart.
Yeah, I agree. That was definitely the play. You wanted to attack. If you're just there to debuff, you want to attack the army that's got the smaller troop count because you're not going to go down as fast. You're attacking a rally that's got 500,000 to 1 million troops in it with your 300K versus attacking an army that's got 200,000 left because it's been battling for a little while. You're going to take so much more damage. So that's definitely the way to go. And as we were talking about that, the Sky Altar for 1093 did fall on the left side in favor of 1NB8. And with all these other blinking buildings, the Shrine of Life down at the bottom having a pretty solid rally against it, but is being counter-rallied by a Minamoto-led Andrush 4KA for 1NB8. That looks like it could have some help coming behind it, so that may actually go in favor of 1093. But that Sky Altar is very concerning. They have not been able to hold on to that Sky Altar almost the entirety of this match. And unless they do, they're going to have a hard time. And just as I say that, I click into the middle. They're going to have a hard time positioning themselves in the middle to capture this arc that's coming up here in about 4 minutes, 45 seconds. And they're going to need this arc to really kind of jump back into the game unless they want to go ahead and try and take over the entire map.
So the counter rally on this rally on the Shrine of Life was relative. It looks like it's very successful. It managed to slow down that rally's damage just enough for the folks of 1NB8 to come in and reinforce. I wonder what you think about this, Dragothian. A counter rally coming into counter a rally, but the rally that's hitting the building is very, very close to taking the building. Do you break the rally to have extra marches to go inside the building, or do you keep letting it fight? In this case, 1NB8 got, I think they got a little bit lucky in the sense that they actually managed to beat down that rally just enough so one march made it in and secured that Shrine of Life. But if the rally would have taken the Shrine, that counter rally could have taken it back, but that's 3 minutes without points. What do you think? Do you break a counter rally on a rally to stick troops in, or do you stick through it and either it's a do or die kind of thing?
If you've got the opportunity to see that those reinforcements are coming, and you know that those reinforcements coming are going to make that rally successful against that structure that you're trying to stop from being captured, absolutely you break that thing. Go ahead and pump some troops inside of that structure. Always being in a structure is going to give you a better overall chance to be successful against anything attacking you, because you're going to have more troops, more buffs, and generally have a garrison talent tree build leading it, so that you're just going to have way more buffs going your way with a bigger army size than just doing a rally targeting another rally when 3 other marches are going to be swarming as well. It just doesn't make sense. So definitely the answer to your question is yes. Break it, fill it, and then anything that can't go into that building, start attacking the rally and start swarming it down.
Yes, sir. And it looks like the folks from 1NB8 are really putting in the work on these altars. The desert altar you mentioned goes back to 1093, but not before the folks of 1NB8 swarm the desert altar at the bottom and take it in their favor. And they are playing ping pong who owns which one of those bottom altars. The guys at 1093 right now are happy with the current situation. They're in the lead, but not by a lot. Barely 80 points, which is one extra shrine. With that being said, that extra shrine just went away, although it didn't take points away from them because the shrine they had, that specific shrine was not the shrine giving them the points. But in a bit, everything comes back to square one. Everybody is even at 590, 590, but 1NB8 with a 6,200 point lead. One arc being given away to 1093 will still not get them out of this hole. And the problem is 1NB8 are not looking to give up any arcs. And look at the waterfall of blue marches making it in, and the wall of red marches. It's telling them you shall not pass, as Surge Corp stays behind, like we mentioned, to pick up this arc. But Dragothian, if Surge Corp picks up this arc, we're going to be a little bit upset, right? Because that is a freaking range march. Where is the fast cab?
Well, I mean, it's probably Herman El Cid or something like that, right? Let me zoom in. I can't see. I can't see it enough to see because of the marker over top of him. But yeah, so they can be fast. Archers can be fast, but usually they have to have half health. So certainly you want to have a mobility-based cav commander sitting there waiting to go, preferably also half health, because they activate the charge ability from the talent tree and the cav tree, so they go even faster. And again, if you properly spec out the mobility talent tree with cavalry, T4 preferably as well, on top of being half health, that cav group is ablaze. So not exactly the best thing to have there, but it's not the worst either. It's in between. And at the end of the day, though, you've got a big wall of 1093 coming your way. You want the fastest thing you can do to get that arc out of there and as far down that lane towards your side of the map as humanly possible. With roughly, 15 seconds left, 1093 is starting to envelop the Temple of Osiris. And I think really, if 1093 wants this, they're going to have to pull this thing off of the Temple of Osiris first to have it on their side to really start being able to bring it back quickly. Otherwise, they're going to have to fight for it, have to go through all those red armies. More red armies are coming up from the bottom as well on top of that for reinforcement. And this is going to be another 10, 15-minute battle for an arc. And really, 1093 can't afford to let that happen. They need to get this one captured, get one more rolling, keep their buildings on their side, which already I'm seeing tons of blue buildings are blinking. No red buildings are blinking, but there are 10 rallies in the rally counter.
What I really loved was the timing by 1NB8. As soon as that arc popped, the obelisk at the bottom for the blue team started blinking, and so Lady Dragon got stuck back there with 4 marches having to deal with a rally. Right after that, the top blue obelisk started blinking, and immediately after that, every single meaningful building has a blue building started blinking. And again, the arc right now belongs to 1NB8. They have dropped it on their side, which was my recommendation. That thing stood up there for quite some time. I believe that in this kind of a situation, wasting one march to drop the arc on your side of the temple is worth it, primarily because the most likely thing that will happen, you'll be able to move it a little bit further with all that cluster happening there. But at the same time, as we've previously mentioned it, every single pixel towards your side is critical because it gives more time for more folks to make it in and to help out the situation. And I'm kind of rambling on because I'm trying to get back into the match. We kind of keep crashing due to the massive craziness that's going on in that center. And as we're back, Dragothian, what did we miss?
So looking at the map right now, still a ton of blue buildings blinking on the 1093 side. There is a rally in from 1093 trying to recapture the Shrine of Life at the very top of the map right by their obelisk. Looks like it should be pretty successful. This Richard looks like it's going to go down, but it's going to take a little bit of time because it's a Richard. Also, just below that, you've got the Desert Altar being rallied by a Saladin-led match or Saladin-led march from 1NB8. That looks like that is also going to stay in favor of 1093. And then again, that Sky Altar all the way to the left, getting captured away from 1093 with armies sitting around it, Vickers, Lady Dragon, just not getting there quite in time. Drago, also one that just could not make that happen. And now there's a YSG sitting in that, oh, that's not good, sitting inside of that Sky Altar, raining down arrows all over these three armies that are swarming it. And more looking like they're going to be coming in for reinforcements from 1NB8 there too. Whew, this is definitely a doozy to be watching. The Arc looks like it's coming back towards the temple as well. It looks like it's down at the moment, but it didn't go as far as it did before while we were waiting for the feed to come back up. 1NB8 is definitely positioning themselves to make this Arc capture take as long as possible, and they've got a significant 310 point per minute point advantage in favor of having them really start to take away and extend this lead in their favor.
I really don't understand why Andrushi didn't go into that Sky Altar. That was a huge question mark, like a big boy question mark. Why not? I thought maybe there's a march of that individual coming out of the Sky Altar. Nope, nothing like that. And again, as you mentioned, that Arc is now a tug of war, right? The Arc is going a little bit left, a little bit right, a little bit left, a little bit right. Who is favored in that situation? 1NB8. 20 minutes remaining in this match. 20 minutes and 35 seconds to be more exact. And 1NB8 with 230 point per minute lead, growing their gap significantly. They're almost at a 7,000 point lead. And they have their 590 points ticking. That means that they have all of their side secured and ticking for points, while the folks of 1093 are still waiting for a couple of buildings to lock in their favor, a altar and a shrine of life. The thing here is, right, Dragothian, what's the next step that 1093 can do? Because they're running out of time. 20 minutes is starting to be that point where you start to ask the question, what are we doing? What Hail Mary do we play? We're seeing the Arc not being successful. We're seeing the building gameplay going back and forth a little too much, not being able to hold buildings too much. What does 1093 do right now, Dragothian? If you are Lion King of 93 in that chat right now, what do you tell your team to reset them and get them to pull a very, very tough 7,000 point gain in 20 minutes?
So it's going to be tough. I will say that. First off, it just seems like everywhere you go so I'm looking around the map, right, to preface the answer to your question. Everywhere I go on the map, I see a ton of 1NB8. It's like they just have enough troops to be everywhere, and I just don't understand how that's possible considering the amount of troops they've got in the middle, the amount of troops they have inside of these buildings. It blows my mind. They're able to do this the way they are. If it was me, so on the left side where you see all the buildings blinking right now, I would send a rally to that Desert Altar, even though it's nicely reinforced and they've got about 8 armies, again, just kind of sitting there on one side, not being used and seemingly not being necessary to do anything besides sit there and posture. I would send a rally that way, break it before it arrives on the Desert Altar, do the same thing on the other side, on the top side of the map with that Shrine of War, break it, bring them into the middle. But again, just as I say that, 1NB8, again, seemingly being everywhere, right, has positioned armies coming in at those same vector points that I was talking about on both sides to help reinforce and bring that Arc back. They just seem to be everywhere. It's insane. I've not seen that before.
Yes, sir. And the beautiful thing about being in the official Rise of Kingdoms Osiris League cast is that it doesn't matter how many times we crash, we can always make our way back in. And so even though we did crash a couple of times, we do our best to get back into the action as quick as possible, as at the end of the day, what we want to do is to show you guys, the community, this insane event that's going on. And I'm not going to lie to you, Dragothian, I bet on 1NB8 Not because of my knowledge of 1NB8, but because of strictly odds. The odds were too juicy to pass up on. I did a small bet. I'm not going to lie. It wasn't something crazy. But I said this on your stream yesterday. I am betting on 1NB8 knowing that I'm most likely going to lose these Oryx. And I am pretty sure the consensus in the community right now is, we did not see this one coming. And very big kudos to 1NB8. I am super impressed by the very strict, disciplined, that's the word I'm looking for, kingdom that is 103.
Man, if this ends up going the way it is right now, that, like you said, 3 of the 8 remaining alliances coming from one kingdom, that just shows you how big and strong that kingdom is to have that kind of player base. Not just because they're big, but they've got some strategy, not going to lie. And at the end of the day, that's what it takes to win these events here in Osiris League and in Arc of Osiris in general, is strategy and being able to coordinate and being, like you said, disciplined and knowing where to go, how many armies go there, when they go there, and ultimately when to stay and when to leave. And again, they just seem to have enough troops everywhere they need to be at just the right times. Every time I look on the map and I'm like, okay, seeing what's going on. If I'm 1039, I'm like, okay, I'm down by 7,000 points. Okay, let me go over here. Here's what I do. And I go over there, and there's 10 armies for 1NB8 sitting there already. Mm-hmm. Or they're already positioning themselves to be there. I'm like, wow, okay, so what do I do next? So I go to the next one, and it's the same thing. And I'm like, okay, well, at this point, just go do stuff. I mean, just go make a play. And I think at the end of the day,
let me interrupt you for a moment, for a second. I apologize. I don't interrupt you usually, but this is an important one. Take a look at the 2 altars blinking right now. It's what we were talking about earlier. The guys of 1093 focusing on an altar that is not giving points to one NB8, but 1NB8 focused on the desert altar that is ticking for points for 1093. So that altar take, that sky altar take, is great for 1093, but it didn't harm the points per minute gain of 1NB8, while there are 2 other altars they could have gone for that would have harmed the progress of 1NB8. That was one of the things you mentioned as well, knowing how to time which rally where, and I apologize for cutting you off. It was just such a great thing to point out.
That's a great point. And, conversely, right, if you try and take that methodology, and you say, okay, well, we're only going to attack the ones that are generating points, but leave the ones that are capturing, then you're always on your back foot too. So you've got to do both, right? You've got to do both. And again, just looking at the map, you never see 1093 having an overwhelming number of forces in any given place where they need to be, except for the middle when there's 5 minutes left before the arc captures. Mm-hmm. Then you see 1NB8 come in force a minute and a half before the arc is available to be respawned, and then magically it's a shootout. It's everybody's all crazy in the middle, and even with all that, even all the preparation and the posturing and everything like that, the arc is still on the side of 1NB8. It just blows my mind. I know how powerful all of the players inside of these alliances are, and it's not a matter of power anymore. It's just a matter of being in the right place, strategically placing your assets on the battlefield, and just moving them around like a chess match.
I zoomed out here to show you the little, what do you call them? Little diamonds of color to show you the reds and blues. And near that arc, lots of blue marches making their way towards red. But this is a sea of red with a blue scout crossing by going, oh, that's the arc we were supposed to catch. Yeah, that wow you just said is summarizing everything, right? Everybody came into this match. I mean, we're looking at the betting odds. Everybody came into this match thinking 1093 got this, done deal, easy peasy. This is the third alliance of 103. These guys are not like, oh, okay, NB1 and NB2 are the 2 big boys, and 1NB8 is the third guy. No. We're looking at 3 out of 8 alliances coming out of 103 into the round of 8. How? As of right now, at least, 12 minutes still remaining in the match. How unreal is this? If this arc is delivered, do we dare to call it?
Which it looks like it's gonna.
Do we dare to call it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, and again, it's nothing against either alliance. It's just you're looking at what, a 5-digit difference between the two, and there it is right there coming up here in just a minute. just got captured right there. So, man, that's heavy. That's a heavy burden to bear. That's what, 8,000 points right there. Looking to capture with another, what is this, 3,500 coming on the way. That's going to be very difficult to come back from. I don't ever want to call it before I know for a fact, but I pretty much am at that point right there with you, Gecko, where we're getting to the point where we can probably call it. And it's just you got to give a hats off to the 1NB8. They executed flawlessly. You never saw a time on the map where a blue building wasn't blinking. And again, anytime I saw something happening from a bird's eye view, looking at it, through my vision and through the cast vision, my next steps were already looked at, it seemed, by 1NB8. Whenever I said, okay, I'd be here, and then they're there. They're already there. They've been there for about a minute.
Yep.
So it's very difficult. It's very difficult.
It's cool because the question I'm interested to know in, right? We saw that in 1093 we're like about 5 members down. It is a bit tough. It is a bit tough because 5 members is significant. It doesn't mean that the 5 folks who came in don't know how to play. I can tell you for a fact, for example, that J-Rock, one of the substitutions, was a leading individual within, was one of the primary people in High at the time in Kingdom 58. So he has the experience on the battlefield. It's not that the substitutions are like subpar players, but again, when you have 30 players who are synced and now you have to get in 5 individuals who don't necessarily 100% know the playbook like the back of their hands, these little mistakes happen. And it is important to say something, to be honest and to be clean, right? You and I, well, myself at least, I have a lot of individuals that I know in 1093, a lot more than I know 1NB8. I've gotten to know 1NB8 in the last few months and the folks of 103 in general. And from my knowledge and from your knowledge of 1093, we were expecting this to be a much closer matchup. And you kept saying throughout the cast, wow, like, this is not a close match, but it's by far one of those matches that I believe should be rewatched and understood how it worked, because this is a favorite, one of the biggest alliances and one of the biggest kingdoms in the game, coming in and being schooled by a third alliance of a kingdom. And that's not being said in a derogatory way. But again, when you're looking at the big alliance of one kingdom going up against the third alliance of a kingdom, boy, oh boy, what a surprise. Big shout out to 1NB8, my man. Big shout out to them.
Yep, they've definitely performed very, very well. And, something else to add onto the stack of things that, us being partners with the developers of this game, that we can contribute, and I think ultimately able to help guide the community's suggestions into bettering the game. I think a big thing that we've really taken away, or at least I have, I'm sure you have too, Gecko, is we need to be able to have these matches be self-contained, where there's a replay function that you can control yourself. So there's other games out there where in matches like this, there's a file that you can download and upload within the game, and you can replay the match like you're an observer, you're a spectator. So you can do it freshly, because there's just so many things going on this map. And like I said, when I'm looking around trying to find out what I would do from a strategic standpoint to counter what I just saw on the other side of the map, maybe something else is happening on another place that I didn't click that made that thing possible. So as a strategist, as somebody who wants to know what made that work and how this worked and how this impacted that piece that's all the way across the map and this army coming down this way, and all those pieces kind of fit together into a nice, cute puzzle, I want to be able to look at it and see it and study it. I mean, that's how we all get better, right? And this is really, looking at 1NB8, this is a clinic on how to put down one of the biggest alliances in the game, and definitely a respected one, not just from the game standpoint and KVK and all the other pieces that are in the Rise of Kingdoms puzzle, but one of the most strategic events inside the game with the Osiris League playoffs and the Arc of Osiris in general. This is the pinnacle of strategy. This is one that you want to watch. You want to be able to rewatch over and over to see what happened and how it happened and where it happened and who did it. That's what I would look forward to.
I can't say anything beyond that. Like you said that perfectly. I cannot add a single word to that train of thought that would make it any better. I can just make it any worse, truthfully. So we'll leave that there. And I think you are completely right. And I believe that this is something the community, the folks watching this cast, can help us as well as themselves have this. Dragothian coming, bringing up a fantastic idea of having replays, maybe not of all Arc of Osiris. We don't want to make things too heavy on the Lilith servers that can barely handle the situation inside Osiris League as is. A lot of action happens. I mean, hell, my computer is having a tough time with this. So maybe having Osiris League matches available for replay, at least those few matches, so you can study the top tier, so you can understand how the top tier works, and perhaps maybe having one replay back for your Alliance latest Arc of Osiris. But yeah, I love it. I love that idea, and it's definitely one we should bring up to Lilith Gaming for potentially the second season of Osiris League.
Yeah, it would be great. I really think that overall, though, just to kind of recap as we wind down under 7 minutes here with another arc about to drop, although I think it'll be probably just a little, well, not probably, it's going to be a little too late for 93 to be able to come back from this and, gain enough points to have it be relevant to the score that's on the screen in front of you all. I think just ultimately, just kudos to both alliances for getting this far. And then certainly, again, I just cannot say enough how impressed I was with 1NB8 and how they were able to maneuver on the battlefield and seemingly be everywhere, just be everywhere.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, what can be said beyond this, right? We got it. We're going to keep an eye on this thing right here as it winds down. 6 minutes remaining. 3 red altars. 3 altars also blinking. This is a little bit of a last-ditch effort to get those, I guess, those individual honor points. And honor points, this is not Lost Kingdom. Individual points of Arc of Osiris, but it looks like everybody is above that 10K. As a matter of fact, everybody above the 20K. That speaks volumes, Dragothian, quite frankly.
Oof.
It speaks volumes. If everybody has the same kind of level of individual points, it means that 1093 focused maybe a bit too much on the open field combat rather than on the buildings, because the best way to get those points is by open field as well as defending buildings and holding on to buildings, which they weren't able to do. So if these guys have the same kind of individual points, what does it say about where 93 prioritized? And for the record, once you look at the top part of the individual points, you'll definitely see the difference as Michelle from 1NB8 hitting 143,000 individual points and still has 5 minutes. Are we going to see a 200K by any chance?
I think it's probably a little too late for that. Probably a little too late for that, but 150 is definitely in the realm of possibility with all these buildings still being blinking and things like that. So when you look at the points, right, with point totals like that, there's usually 2 scenarios where that makes sense. One is that they are the main ralliers for their alliance. So usually there's 2 main people from a points perspective at the top of each point spread, because there's 1 rallier on the bottom, 1 rallier on the top. There's not really tending to be too many rallies in the middle. Ralliers get the most points because they're the ones that have all the troops. They get the points. They don't necessarily share them. So they're going to rally a big objective and kill hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of troops on the battlefield. They get all that credit. Conversely, they could also be going super crazy and starting to rally some of the inside of the Osiris League in here. So if you're rallying a city and you're the city being rallied 9 times out of 10, you're going to wreck that rally that's coming your way. And a lot of kills are going to come from that. You're going to get 2 million kills right off the bat from each rally. If you've got enough troops, you're going to definitely cause some damage and get a whole lot of points. The highest I've ever seen is just over 400,000 points because of that.
Damn.
Multiple rallies.
I'll tell you this. 1NB8, the thing I really like about them that is worth to note for everybody in general playing Arc of Osiris as well as Osiris League in future seasons, we can very much call it, right? We've called it about more than that, probably 10 minutes ago. 1NB8 never let go of the gas for a moment. They're carrying an arc back right now. This is the kind of things that makes an alliance as strong as 1NB8. You get into a match and you close out the match to the best of your abilities, period. You do not slack off. You do not start thinking you're ahead. You do not lose focus. Even with 13,000 points, almost 13,000 point lead, they did lose a little bit of buildings, and they are kind of starting to maybe not focus as much on rallies per se to take buildings back. I'm seeing less blue buildings blinking now than all throughout the whole match. But they still maintained composure until the very end to guarantee their win. And even when they guarantee their win, they are giving the respect to their opponents that they do deserve by continually playing at the top tier all the way to the end, rather than just letting it go and playing around because we already won. So big shout out and big GGs for 1NBA. We want to see a big shout out to the folks of 1NBA. Can we get some GGs in the chat, folks, as a very big upset happens in Dragothian? We say goodbye to 1093 on Osiris League Season 1.
And I got to say, so we have a system in this game where we can pick or attempt to pick the winner. And certainly 1093 was one of my choices to make it to the finals and win it. That cuts me down to 2 selections that I have left that are actually still in this match. And I got to say, I cannot stress this enough. The NB family of alliances just has shown today that they came prepared. They took this whole thing super serious. They put a lot of work into it, and it's definitely shown. And having 3 out of the last 8 alliances in the entire game being able to not only be here, but also to win. And I think the other piece that really has to be said, it didn't have to be a flashy win. Like, this was a flashy win. Like, this was a statement win for 1NB8. NB1 and NB2, though, they won by grit, and they won in the last second. And they won by, again, just holding just enough. That bend but don't break type of mentality, that's sometimes all you need to get the W versus going home.
And Dragothian, I want to shout out big time Misfit Lion King in the chat, going good game, 1NB8, played it great. We're now, for those of you who don't know who Misfit Lion King is, that is Lion King of 93, one of the leaders, the leader of 93, one of the folks leading that kingdom. And the fact that he comes in and respects his opponents, saying GG's, taking this as it's supposed to be, a friendly competition, that's exactly what we're all about. And Morning Woody, goodbye to you, my friend. You take the L outside of this chat and get the hell out of this channel. No L's in here. Everybody, at the end of the day, came for a fair competition. No need to be toxic. GG's.
With the Saladin on the screen, right?
Yes, sir.
Michelle, 1NB8 with 100. I told you, just over 150, so 151,841. I can't take any of those points away from her and round any of that up or down. Certainly, Michelle with a Champion of Egypt victory and ultimately showcasing Kingdom 103, and more importantly for this match, Alliance 1NB8 moving on to the final 8 in Osiris League playoffs as we come into next week, and this being the last match of the day.
Yes, sir. Let's take a look at the stats right here, see what we got. The picture is pretty clear. You see the units healed to show you how much 1NB8 really wanted this. We use that units healed mark as a very important number to take a look at, because healing units is very, very expensive. It is not cheap, and people don't do it unless they either have to or they're really trying to go all out. And 12 million units healed is indeed a huge number, and it shows that newbie lifestyle really came in here wanting to win. They've won on every frontier: Arc of Osiris score, occupation score, and provision score by a little bit. You know, those 78 points right there. Just a little bit in there. Is there anything in here else that you see that is interesting? Like, for example, occupations at the bottom.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, overall, I think this is exactly what we were expecting coming in here. Teleports were about the same. Occupations, definitely a big deal, but I think at the end of the day, we all saw it on the screen. 1NB8 just kind of had 1093 just where they wanted them. I want you guys to be over here, so I'm going to rally over here. And then once y'all get there, I've also got a rally already going this way, but it's about 30 seconds behind, so you're not going to be ready for it. Like, this is what was going through 1NB8's mind, and this is where not necessarily the numbers will show what happened, but as you rewatch this match, and I guarantee you, quite a few alliances, especially in the top tier, and those that are wanting to learn some strategy about how to properly be an end game style alliance for Osiris League, you're going to want to watch this match because there's a lot of good plays on both sides where you can take those plays, put them into your own alliance strategy, and then push them forward and hopefully help you win your Arc of Osiris or Osiris League Season 2, which will be coming up later down the road. That'll be the way to go.
You know, I've been casting so many Arcs of Osiris, and so have you. We've kind of gotten a hang on how you try to observe on the map. The observing on the map is not as easy as it seems. People think that it's easy to capture all the action and figure out what's going on. I can tell you, as a very honest thing, I do not think that my spectating did any justice to 1NB8. It was ridiculously hard to try to figure out what the heck they're doing, because just like you said, they were always 2 steps ahead, and while you went to see the rally right out there, turns out that while that was happening, they were already building up 2 rallies up on the top, and all of a sudden there is an arc carry, and you're like, click, 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 go here, go there, and what are you watching? It was such a big mess because they were so far ahead of even our train of thought. Like you said I would like to be here, and they were already there a minute ago. They were so far ahead of us that it was so hard to spectate this, and I'm super excited to see what these guys bring in the next phase of Osiris League Season 1. Any closing thoughts, Dragothian?
No, I'm just really looking to see what these the next 4 matches happen next Sunday. I'm really looking forward to seeing these matchups that are already starting to line up. Some big boys popping against each other on the battlefield next week, and I'm hoping we can cast every single one of these matches as they play out. I'm really hoping they don't double up on some of these time slots so that we can get every single one showcased on this channel for the next 3 weeks.
Yes, sir. Hopefully we will not have any double ups next week if the gods of Rise of Kingdoms allow us to, and so we can cast every match. We are going to do our very best, and we encourage you guys from the community to let Lilith know that you guys want to see all matches. Do not double up on us. We're trying our best to see how everything can be accommodated so all the alliances play on the best available time for them, as well as the cast works out the same way. This time around, yes, no Big Rick this stream, but hopefully next time around, Big Rick will come join us again. Dragothian, thank you very much, my friend. It was a fantastic day with you. I appreciate all the time, effort, and energy you've put into it. You've been waking up at 5 a.m. We've casted 5 matches. It's no small feat. Guys, major props to Dragothian, and you guys definitely want to go check out his channel in the description down below. And while you're at it, you're welcome to pop by mine as well. Let's go back into the studio for a final farewell and finish off this cast for the round of 16 of Osiris League.
Sounds good. Thanks.
And so, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up 5 insane casts. Today was an unbelievably fun day to watch Arc of Osiris. All the VODs will be available in the Rise of Kingdoms channel very soon. I believe the previous ones are already up. If some of them are missing, they will pop up as they take some time to process. We release them as soon as possible. Thank you guys very much for being here. We had a wonderful time casting for you guys today. Before you leave, drop a like on the stream, and of course, big shout out to all the content creators who are involved in this, as well as Lilith Gaming for putting up the official Osiris League cast. We're hoping that next week we can bring you even more improvements and even more things to get this cast to the next level with every single cast, and then hopefully next season blow it out of the park. But until next week, we bid farewell. Thank you guys very much. Appreciate every single one of you. Enjoy your weekend, and of course, stay safe. Peace.